Hello.
Hello.
How's it going today?
It's been a day so far.
Ah,
And it hasn't been bad. It's been a day.
I know. It's like it's not a bad day, but it's a day. I understand that.
Yesterday was a little bit of a day too, but that was kind of my own doing. I had to get the battery replaced in the Jeep.
Oh, okay. So you didn't delete a server or something.
No. No, yesterday I knew I had a limited window of time where I could run right down the street here and have the battery tested. And so I did so, and it was as expected because you could tell. I mean, symptoms were all there anyway. And but the problem is the battery they had to replace it with, even though it was listed as a replacement, would not fit in the compartment appropriately and still be bolted in place. Yeah, it was something like a 20 millimeters too long or something like that. And so the other replacement that they had listed, they had to order, and so I had to use the temporary one sitting in the compartment without being bolted in. And by the way, for anybody that doesn't know, in the Jeeps, the battery sits up underneath the passenger seat.
Oh, I did not know that.
Yeah, it's something about the type of battery. I don't remember the technology. It's basically it's a battery technology that doesn't like heat, so it can't sit in the engine compartment anyway.
So I just wanted to add in there that 20 centimeters is 20 millimeters is 2 centimeters for our metric listeners.
Yeah, and so it wasn't a huge deal to have the larger battery in there anyway, because it's still sitting down in that well up underneath the seat. It's just that the plate that would then keep it in place couldn't be put back in place at the same time, and so had to carve out another window of opportunity to get back down there after the correct size replacement arrived at the store and swap them out again, and then get back home. So it was a day yesterday, but of a completely different type.
Was this your Jeep or Emily's?
This was mine. It still had the original OEM battery.
Oh, wow. Yeah. That's 2012?
Correct.
Nice. It's a good that's 8-year run on a battery is pretty good.
Yeah, I was quite surprised.
The last time I had to deal with batteries, I had an alternator dying, and so I realized it with the battery, and I can remember being out over excuse me. I can remember driving on Green Springs Highway and going up the little hill to the auto zone, and it was nighttime, so I had my lights off. I had everything. I had the air conditioner off. I had everything off that I could turn off. I had the brightness. I had everything powered off, and I'm going up the hill, and I just barely made it to the parking lot, and had to get my alternator replaced, and then found out that my battery needed to be replaced, and but it was under warranty, so I got a brand new battery out of it.
That's nice.
Yeah.
I in the Jetta, I had to replace the battery about 3 years in, I think. And then about 2 years later, I had to replace it again, so it got replaced under warranty. And the gentleman then told me that all the sub 20-minute drives, that being the consistent commute, just isn't enough to keep the battery charged in a way that doesn't reduce its lifespan.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So I have a feeling this one's going to be replaced, shorter term than normal as well, but that's all right.
It's that's helpful to know. This is why the problem started, but what is the solution? Do you need to drive it for 30 minutes twice a week? Do you need to drive it for an hour once a week? What's the,
Yeah, I don't know for sure what that would be. I didn't do any digging to see what, the recommendations are. My guess, though, from the way he was talking about it, was basically 3 to 4 times a week, you just need a good 20-minute high RPM drive. Or not necessarily high RPM, but not just sitting idle for 20 minutes,
Well, I mean, presumably, you're most of that 20-minute drive is interstate driving, right?
Yeah, but mine's not even 20 minutes. It's from the home.
Sub 20 minutes.
Yeah, so from home to Jacob's daycare typically is 15 minutes. And then from daycare to the office, back when that was a thing, was typically 12 to 15 minutes as well. So my entire commute would be broken up with turning off the vehicle and starting it back up, which...
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
If I had left it running, maybe that would have been a difference, but then that's just a waste of gas, and I don't care enough. I'd rather just replace the battery every so often.
Yeah, it's just going to be a thing.
But prior to we had cold weather come through, and prior to that, it was already kind of struggling a little bit. You could hear, it was just not starting up as smoothly as it could. And so as soon as the temperatures dropped below freezing, it was like, oh, I hope it cranks this time.
Yeah. Yeah. So you got some follow-up regarding your Krueger tree stand.
Yes, since we've actually now used it, we went the day after Thanksgiving to Wildhorse Farms, which is out toward Tuscaloosa, and picked a 9-foot Leland cypress, which is currently in our living room. And
is that a skinny tree or a thick boy?
It's a fairly skinny tree. Like I can get my arms around it most of the way, even with all the branches fluffed out. So it's probably 3.5 foot to 4 foot diameter, if you count the branches being as far out as they can be and being very bendable.
That's not too skinny.
No.
That sounds like
it's skinnier than what you would...
Maybe on the skinny side.
Yeah, it's skinnier than what any artificial tree I've seen, for the most part, tries to mimic. But it's not a skinny tree. When you just look at it, it just looks like a small tree.
Yeah. And did you like the tree stand?
I did. It took all of about 60 seconds to get the tree sitting in it and clamped into place and secure. And the bulk of that was just me holding the tree up a little bit and turning it into a 2-person job, with Emily just centering the trunk just to make it easy. The first time that I actually set it in and clamped it in place, it was not centered and it was still holding it just fine.
Could you have done this without assistance?
Oh, absolutely. I just didn't even really try. It's like, there's 2 of us. Let's just make it the easiest possible.
Totally.
So definitely recommend it. I know I put a link, or I'm pretty sure I put a link into it in last week's show notes. If I didn't, I'll make sure there's a link in this week's.
Just a quick question. What is your tree topper?
We've had the same topper for a long time. It's just a silver glittery star. And unfortunately, we have all white lights.
Oh, you don't like that?
I don't mind it, but I like having fun with the lights a little bit. Emily is very much a white light person. So for any light fun, I have to decorate outside.
Ah, yeah. I love a white light tree, but I also love a colored light tree as well. My mom does a really good multicolored light tree, and I quite like that. But I also like classic white as well. So I'm easily...
Yeah, I've had fun with combinations of 2 colors a lot of times too. And so one year I did blue and white, and got picked on for it being a Hanukkah tree instead.
No, I don't think so, because Hanukkah is not they don't do Christmas trees in Hanukkah.
Oh, I know. It's just that the color association is what people picked up on.
Right, but then you could easily have just said that's a Greek tree.
Fair enough.
Or an Israeli tree, which is different from Hanukkah. A lot of overlap, but different.
And then I've also used red and white and red and green and, just different combinations of 2 colors over time.
Red and green is the Freddy Krueger Christmas tree.
Only when wrapped with tinsel as well. Then it really completes the look.
Yeah, and you can use like a worn, slightly singed fedora for the topper.
Oh, I'm gonna have to do that one year.
That's a scary tree, I think.
Especially if you get one of those. I think you could also use the prop Halloween glove as an ornament and really complete.
Oh yeah, yeah. Put it kind of like it's. Let's see. Did he wore? I think he wore it on his right hand. So you put it however you'd face a tree. You'd put it slightly above halfway up, and on if you're facing the tree on the left side, because I think Krueger wore it on his right hand. Did you know that the character Freddy Krueger, the name came from some kid that bullied Wes Craven in school when he was a kid?
I had heard that, yes.
Yeah. And then Wes Craven he had a cameo in the movie Scream, where he was dressed as Freddy Krueger, and he was the janitor in the high school. And Henry Winkler's character sees him and says something and calls him Fred.
I don't remember that part, but then again, it's been so long since I've seen it as well.
Oh, I love Scream. Scream is I like that movie. It's one of my favorite movies of that genre.
I like the first one.
Definitely the first one.
The rest of them just felt inconsequential.
The second one's quite good. It's very popular, and I would say it's quite good. The third one gets a little bit. I'm pretty like I'll watch all of them. Like I like the third one as well, but I understand it's getting a little bit like I don't know, getting a little long in the tooth, I suppose. And then the fourth one was sort of like not really anything new there. And then the TV show, again, not really anything new, but I like the franchise, and so I enjoyed it. So, but the first two, I think, are like pretty solid.
I realized I didn't have, just thinking about older movies, I realized I didn't have any of the Rocky films in Plex, and remedied that over the weekend. Mostly so I could test the M1 performance, but also just because I realized they weren't in there. And so now they are.
How did you, so did you rip them?
Yes, I ripped all of them. I have the Blu-ray set that includes 1 through 6.
Oh.
So 1 through 5, and then Rocky Balboa.
Mm-hmm.
And, of course, of those, 1 through 4 are the only ones really worth revisiting. But, you know.
You know, people had told me 5 was so bad. By the time I actually got to watch 5, I was like, this is not as bad as people said. But I understand why they were saying it was so bad. Because like if I didn't have like all the de-hype of the 5th one, then I would have thought the same thing. But I think I have the exact same set.
Yeah, I didn't really have a problem with the 5th one or the 6th one overall. It's just at that point the story just wasn't one I was as interested in. You know, I was interested in Rocky and his fights, not in trying to create even more of a character and franchise out of the story.
I think 3 is probably my favorite. I remember watching with my kids. They were like 4 or 5, 6 years old when we watched them, and we started with 3 because I didn't think that they would. I think the pacing of the first one would not have worked for them being that young. But we started with 3, and it was so great to watch it with kids that age because they're like, "Is he gonna win? Is he get?" You know, and they was like, and I was like, "I don't know," and they were like, "No, you've seen it before. Does he win?" And I was like, "You have to watch it." I was like, "I'm not going to tell you." So it's at some point, you know, it'd be fun to, you know, when they're a little bit older and like remind them that they were asking if they wins, and it's quite obvious like he's gonna lose the first one, but he's gonna win the last one, the most important one, because that's how movies go. And then like have them sit and watch the very first one since they've never seen it, and find out that the very last one, the important movie, he loses.
Yeah.
Anyway, today's topic.
I was gonna say last week we had a nice long discussion about pieces of clothing, and then realized that we were going to have to extend it.
Yeah.
And this time you put a lot of stuff in the notes that instead of me. And so let's just start with kind of how you feel it flows together. I know the first topic listed is footwear, but if you want to follow up from last week with something else that leads into that as well, then that's fine with me.
I feel like footwear is where we left off because, you know, we talked about like various things that we'd use for hiking and how they extend to other, you know, like I bought this specifically for hiking, and they sort of extend well into other aspects of life that, oh, this is, you know, obviously a shirt is always going to be multi-purpose, but like, oh, I get the same benefits on these quite a little bit less demanding situations. And so I thought, we talked about the clothes, and I feel like footwear is where we go. And I was going to say, it's funny, like we are not recording at our normal time, and that was sort of it's definitely my fault, but I had a friend ask me, he organized a moonlight hike in Moss Rock Preserve. It was supposed to be for Monday night, but Monday night was overcast, so there wasn't going to be good views of the moon, so we did it last night. And I'm thinking, at 6:30, we'll be done by 8 for sure. Oh, no. I wasn't done until 10. And I did not realize that that hike was going to last so long. So that's where I was last night, and my apologies on that. So, but it was lovely. It's the first time I've done anything significant in Moss Rock, and I didn't know what a gem Moss Rock was. It is lovely.
Yeah, so I'm curious what path you took, or how that, starting and ending points, I assume, were at the rocks in general. But I don't know the trails and all out there, or if there's more than one, really. We've always just hiked the same general section of it and spent more of our time around the boulders.
Yeah, so we didn't make it to the boulder fields. I know there's a loop. There might be various trails to make different loops throughout the area. But we started on the we started at the Sulphur Springs trailhead, and we did a loop around there. And we started on a trail that had blue blazes, and we ended up hiking along a power line easement, and then we ended up at the glade, or the glades, I'm not sure, but it's like an open area with a lot of rocks, but it's not the bouldering area. And then we took the trail with the white blazes back to the trailhead.
Okay. Yeah, we normally start and end at the boulder field. Okay.
I plan to go there more for the remainder of this year as weather permits, and next year into that, because like my kids love climbing, and so I want to take them climbing there. I think that's a good spot. I was gonna say I could go ahead like with the footwear, and I now have like a good. So I'll start with the first pair of like proper hiking boots that I ever bought were a pair of Scarpa boots, and they were really nice, and they're the old school, like stiff, hard leather boot, and they're really pretty boots, and I could just never get comfortable in them. And in my early 20s, when I got interested in camping, hiking, so forth, that was the way to go. And you've got to think about how in those days a lightweight pack load was sub 35 pounds. Today 35 pounds is a heavy load. Like a base weight of 35 pounds is a heavy load. And so it's really interesting because like I remember lightweights were under 35 pounds, and like a heavyweight is going to be someone who's like 60 pounds. So between 35 and 60 pounds was like average, which is pretty laughable today. I think right now I can confirm this, but I think my base weight is under 20 pounds with what I have replaced it with. And I'm not, I've got some things that are meant to be lightweight, but most of it is fairly average, because like I'm not gonna, like I want to be comfortable. Like I'm not gonna sacrifice certain comforts for lightness. So it's just not the type of trip I like to do. I can carry a little bit of weight for that. So I bought those Scarpa boots and never wore them hiking because I would have killed my feet. And so I ended up selling them on Craigslist. It took me like years to get them sold for the price that I was willing to part with them for. And I did. And I sold them to some guy in Florida. I think I had them I had them listed on and off for 5 years and finally got them sold. And about 4 years ago, I bought a new set of hiking boots. I got the Merrell Capra Mid GTX hiking boot. And at the time that I bought them, they were way on sale. I think they were around, it was like a end of the year sale. The model boot was being discontinued, and it was something like $100. And it's like sort of amazing to find a Gore-Tex boot that is $100. And so I got them. And I'm glad I got them because I really have discovered the benefit of having a waterproof boot and the benefits of Gore-Tex. And I really am I am a promoter of Gore-Tex.
Yeah, I'm going to have to look closer at those. I looked at the links after I saw that you had filled out the notes, and they look more like what I should finally add to my collection of choices. Historically, I've just gone with the Merrell Chameleon slip-ons just because they're more comfortable for me for everyday wear in general. And I've had a couple of different pairs that have lasted for a long time, but the most recent 2 iterations of them, the soles have worn out a lot quicker than I would have expected. And so I haven't bought any more in a while. I don't have a shoe that I would consider a hiking shoe anymore at the moment. The closest would be the Zero shoes that I took to do the hike over in Europe. And those work fine, but it's a very different type of hiking shoe. You have to want the barefoot type of minimal sole and experience to want to wear those, and that's not what I would take hiking on a trail if I were actually carrying a backpack.
Yeah. Well, so, like I was mentioning, like back in the day, like the loads were much heavier. The logic was that you would get a good stiff, mid boot to keep your ankles from rolling. Like when you're carrying an extra 40 pounds, if you misstep, it's easier to get off balance and roll your ankles. Now that, like an average base weight is under 20 pounds, that problem goes away for the most part, or it's definitely reduced. And so now there's like a trend towards wearing trail runners for hiking. So those Merrell boots that I got, they were not a stiff leather. It's a fabric that's got a Gore-Tex. I guess a Gore-Tex is a fabric within. It's a lining within the fabric. I'm not sure, or I don't think it's a treatment. But I don't remember.
I think it's a combination of the fabric weave and a treatment, but it's
Okay.
been so long since I looked into it, I don't know. And my history with Gore-Tex stems from when they first kind of came onto the scene in clothing in general, and at the time it was jackets specifically.
Yes.
Because you can make a lightweight, waterproof, warm jacket. And so
and breathable.
Yes. And so my exposure to them was when they first introduced, or I say when manufacturers first introduced Gore-Tex jackets for golfing specifically, because it was while my father was working at Callaway Gardens at the golf course. And as a part of that promotion, they actually gave them jackets as well, so that they would wear them and represent them, and the general marketing type thing. But up until I finally wore it out a couple of years ago, I still had that jacket after it was passed along to me.
Oh, that's cool. I love when they do. I love when companies come in and do stuff like that for the folks. But I remember when I bought those Merrell boots, it was right after the Gore-Tex patent. It was right when the Gore-Tex patent ended, and so Merrell was also, they were still selling Gore-Tex boots. And the biggest benefit of Gore-Tex is you've got waterproofness and breathability, and they were also selling their version of Gore-Tex. So it's now a thing that can be made generically, and so they're able to use the same technology and call it whatever they want to call it. So But I thought it was, that's pretty clever to sell both, because some people like, I want the name Gore-Tex or whatever. So, but they no longer had to, I guess license it. I don't know. Or I guess they I don't know. Maybe they reverse engineer it, but they have a Gore-Tex technology that's not called Gore-Tex anymore. So, but I bought the Gore-Tex ones because they were way on sale, and got the benefits of waterproofness. And I used those on several trips. And what I found was after about 5 miles of hiking in those boots, pack or no pack, the outside of both of my my pinky toes would get, like, I'd call it I've heard it called a hot spot by hikers. And so it's not like the development of a blister, and it's not like skin being rubbed away. It's just that a discomfort from too much rubbing. And so I'd get a hot spot on the outside of both of my pinky toes. And so I was like, I don't know, that's not good. And so I started looking for other things. So I already had a pair of the Nike Air Zoom Wildhorse 4 Trail Runner, which is just a Nike shoe that was designed for trail running. So it's got I think it's a rock plate. So there's a piece in the midsole that is designed to sort of be hard and stiff, so that if you were to step on a small rock, it sort of keeps it from poking into your foot. So it's got and it's got like bigger cleats on the bottom, or treads, or whatever you want to call it. And so I used those on a trip as a sort of control. Is it just my Merrells, or is it mini shoes? And so same thing, after 5 miles or so, I'd get, I'd have hot toes. And so in 2017, I was following I'm still following this channel, but a channel that I was following on YouTube is the Homemade Wanderlust channel. Dixie, the owner of the channel, was doing a through hike of the Pacific Crest Trail, and for that hike, she was using Ultra Lone Peak 4 trail running shoes. And the big thing about the Ultras were that they have a very wide foot box, so that your toes can splay out, like during natural, I guess, to allow for the natural biomechanics of taking a step. And then they also have a zero drop sole. So for the listeners, so they don't have to go look up what zero drop is, it's basically that the heel and the forefoot are on the same level. With most shoes, there's usually a 12 millimeter drop. So the heel sits 12 millimeters higher than the forefoot. I know those Nike Air Zooms that I have, they have an 8 millimeter drop, so they have a slightly lower drop. But the zero drop was not really, again, that's to promote normal natural biomechanics. It's not something that I was really felt a need for, but that wide footbed made all the difference. And so I got the Ultra Lone Peak for RSM, which is, I think that is rain, sleet, mud. And so it's their waterproof one. I think I don't know, but I would have to guess that it is a similar, probably Gore-Tex technology that's not actually Gore-Tex, but I'm not 100% on that. That being said, it's breathable. It functions as well as Gore-Tex. I tested them out. I actually got there's a couple times I thought, oh, they're low. They're not mid-length shoes. They do make a mid-length, but the ones that I got are not. They're just a standard like shoe height. And I thought, should I have paid more? Should I not have paid more for them? Actually, I think I got these on sale, so I didn't pay more for the waterproof. But they didn't have as cool a color. And so I remember thinking at one point, I was like, maybe I should have gone the non-waterproof ones since these are like low and gotten a cooler color. But last night, I stepped into a big old mud, a big old spot where some mud was, and like the front of my foot got completely submerged in some mud. And I was like, nope, this was a good decision to get the RSMs because my foot is completely dry. And then I went and stepped and put my feet in the creek, washed them off so I wouldn't sling mud on myself, and stayed warm. It was like when we got done hiking last night, it was 27 degrees outside. So I feel like, yeah, I will always get, even if it's a normal height shoe, not a mid boot, I will always get the waterproof variant if I can.
As you were describing the shoe, it's something that I know that's of interest. The Zero shoes that I have, and again, that Zero is the brand. It's XERO. It's also a zero drop shoe. But the thing that I first noticed when I originally got them was how wide the foot box is. And I wonder if that's not a fairly natural byproduct of designing a zero drop shoe for the most part. My guess would be it's like if you're thinking about a zero drop shoe, you're thinking about what the feet do under more demanding situations. And if you're doing a zero drop shoe, you're thinking about the biomechanics of walking long distances, and it goes. I'm guessing it goes hand in hand with a wider foot box. I will say that so the Zero shoes that I'm referencing, I think they make some models that have some level of water resistance. It's not to the same level as what you're talking about with the others, but they were comfortable when we hiked Arthur's Seat in Edinburgh. We didn't have to worry about rain for the most part that day. It started sprinkling kind of as we finished the hike, and we were ducking into a pub anyway, and by the time we came back out of the pub, the rain had passed. So I don't really have any direct experience in rain. But aside from just the ludicrousness of carrying 35 pounds of camera gear and the first time I was wearing a zero drop shoe on a hike, and they performed admirably well, and those have become my go-to everyday shoes when I wear shoes, for the most part when it's colder.
Zero has a winter boot that I'm interested in, and if I ever go somewhere where I know I'm going to be in a winter climate, I want to try. There's a winter boot that they have that I'd like to get and try out. So yeah, I was gonna say, like, my experience, like I would say the best part about trying out these Ultras, because I wasn't sure if it was going to solve my problem. I'm very glad that it did, but I wasn't 100% sure about it. I bought them from REI because REI has for members have a 1-year return policy. So I bought these shoes, and I made sure that they didn't have to be in unused condition. They're like, no, you can go use them, try them out. If they don't work for you, return them. And so you have a whole year to do that. And I'm just like, that is brilliant. It's one of the things that like keeps me going back to REI. I mean, they're just good to begin with, and I'm going to go there. But the fact that there's this level of customer service, and like I know that like if it doesn't work for me, I can return it. Totally, it's a great sort of like way that I don't get screwed out of getting the wrong thing, or get screwed because I got the wrong thing.
Yeah, I didn't realize that. I've been a member at REI since like 2001, 2002. And I've gotten a lot of things, but I've never paid attention to that policy. That's something I'll have to, when I try shoes in the future, it's something I'm going to have to probably leverage, because that's part of why I haven't tried a number of different shoes, is because I don't want to spend, $70 to $100 here and there and have, a dozen different pair of shoes that just don't work.
You don't want to spend $200 on a pair of stiff leather Scarpas only to try to sell them for 5 years and take up, I only took like a $25 loss on them, but
Yeah, exactly.
It could have been a $200 loss because maybe I didn't sell them or whatever. So,
well, and that's like I mentioned the previous two iterations of the Merrell Chameleon that I have worn out extremely quickly compared to the previous iteration that I had that lasted me for, 7 years, I think, under really heavy use. And so I've not been inclined to give a lot of stuff that I don't know a chance, because here was something that I knew well that suddenly is not the same quality, and I was already looking for, something different. And so at the time, it was more a matter of, all right, well, if I'm going to give somebody a chance, I'm just going to look at independent or self-run, internet-only options and just kind of see what's out there. And that's how I came across Zero. And then I picked up a pair of Allbirds wool shoes for the European trip because they could collapse in real well. And that way I would have more of a street shoe available and can rotate between them. All that to say that, I haven't looked at a good proper replacement for general outdoor activity in, most conditions. Like right now, I would resort to those Zeros if it's decent out, or if it were rainy. I think the only thing I have are a pair of snow boots that were relatively inexpensive that I bought because I was going up to Boston in the middle of the winter and I knew I would need something.
Yeah. I was going to say the Merrell boots that I have, I would wear those in the winter in the rain, just because, like, if I'm not going to do any long walking, and mostly to preserve the tread on my Lone Peak, the Ultra Lone Peaks, since I'm not really using the Merrells for hiking anymore. And I wear them I've worn them on some kayaking trips that I've done in the winter, so that I can walk around with some waterproof boots on, and that's been nice. I was noticing, like, I did not put anything about my Chaco sandals, because I wear Chaco sandals for like summer outdoor activities, and I love the idea of like, in my head, I look at the Chaco sandal and I think somebody, because they're a company that was based in Colorado, which is now owned by Wolverine something is the parent company of Merrell, and they also own Chaco. So Chaco and Merrell are step siblings. But I feel like somebody out in Colorado said, it's too hot to wear my hiking boots, but I want a hiking boot. I'm just gonna I'm gonna put a strap in on a hiking boot sole and make a sandal, a hiking sandal. And I feel like in my head that's how the Chaco was born, and I use those a lot for water, for paddling trips, and I find them to be really helpful. I know they were tough to sort of not break in, but it was tough to get the straps the way I wanted them when I first got them. But after a few trips wearing them, the straps sort of just stay. I got them dialed in exactly where I need them to be, and they don't move, and they're perfect. And I just have to, like, use the top strap with a buckle to cinch it tight or to loosen it as needed. And most of the time I leave that top strap relatively loose and only tighten it like when I'm going through like the rapids or fall in the water, know that I'm going to get in the water with them.
I haven't really had any major water activities in quite some time. But it used to be when we would go, and for us it was canoes. Typically, I want to say it was almost predominantly or almost always down the Flint River. I'm sure there were a couple of other trips, but either way, during that time, I had a pair of Tevas that I loved. That were,
I remember those.
They were just straps on the front and back to kind of keep them in place and good to go. I guess you would call it a sandal for the way it's designed, but they changed their designs quite a bit when I went to replace those because the buckles finally snapped. And I don't remember what it was about the new designs I didn't like, but I have not bought a shoe that I would use in the water since then. But I haven't had a need to since then either. All of my water-related activities at this point have been in the ocean and predominantly dive related or just general, beach going.
Not really where you need a sort of strappy sandal.
Yeah, not at all.
I can remember being like preteen and just so wanting a pair of Teva sandals and I never got any. I think by the time I bought like some first pair of like sandals that are kind of like that, I got some Nike ACG. I don't know. You remember the ACG line that Nike had?
Not off the top of my head. I mean, it sounds familiar. Like I know I've heard of them, but I can't picture them.
So Nike still dabbled, like they've always done for a long time they've done trail running, and then they sort of dabbled into a little more than trail running, and they made some boots. They made some hiking boots, and they were part of the ACG lineup. And I don't remember all the technologies that were available in this, but the ACG stood for all conditions gear. And they made some sandals that were supposed to be I assume they were supposed to be competitors to something like Teva. But they were definitely sandals that were designed for outdoor use. I had a pair that were primarily, there was a lot of neoprene on them, and they worked really well. They were a good water shoe, and I have some fond memories of them. They're very mid-90s looking shoes, though.
So I know one other shoe that both of us have that hasn't been mentioned. Is that the Merrell Vapor Glove. I know my use case is exercise fitness related as far as working out. Those times when I feel like I need a shoe. But what do you use yours for?
I initially got them to be camp shoes because they're super light, but I have never used them for that, and I've only used them for, it's a casual shoe that doesn't look like a tennis shoe, but also says, hey, I'm an outdoorsy person.
So you pretty much use it as a replacement for an everyday tennis shoe.
Yeah, it's a casual shoe. But it's not just a casual shoe. It's a casual shoe that says I'm an outdoorsy person.
Oh, it's definitely it's designed as a trail running shoe.
I would never want to run on a trail with those shoes on.
Well, if you were accustomed to using the five fingers, if that was your predominant shoe.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what this is an alternative to for those who don't like the five fingers.
You're totally right.
Yeah, I actually have a pair of the five fingers. I use them on the rowing machine, and that's it.
Gotcha. I know folks that use them out on the water, like they use it as a water shoe. But five finger, I guess Vibram makes it. Vibram makes a five finger that is specifically designed for water use. So
yeah, Merrell actually owns the Vibram now.
Yeah, that's so. Are they discontinuing the use of the name Vibram?
Not that I've been able to tell. It seems to be a part of the naming and marketing for the soles and the rubber used on the bottom of most Merrell shoes. So yeah, I'm pretty sure the Merrell boots that I have a Vibram outsole. I know that I should definitely mention this about the Chaco sandals I have. The Chaco sandals I bought in August of 2007. And they had a Vibram outsole. They don't anymore. In 2018, so 11 years after I had them, a strap broke. And instead of having to buy new Chaco sandals, you can send Chaco sandals back to Chaco, and they will restrap them. So they put a new strap on, and in the process, they replaced my outsole and is no longer a Vibram outsole. It is it might be Vibram, but it's not branded as Vibram, and it just says Chaco on it. So I was gonna say that's a really cool thing because that was way less expensive than replacing the shoe. I think it was like $40 including shipping to get that fixed, and so that was great because you just go to, the other thing that's great about it, you just go to their website. You don't have to call them or anything. You just go to their website. You fill out a form. They ask you, they show you the strap colors that are available. They have you pick the strap that you want, and they have you pick up a backup in case the strap that you want isn't available. So you get to get a new color if you choose, if you can't find the replacement one, or if you want a new color, so you don't have to have the same color.
and they send them back, and it was relatively fast and relatively inexpensive.
I decided to look up real quick and see if I was accurate. Vibram is not owned by Merrell. What I was misremembering is that there was a period where Merrell and Vibram no longer collaborated, and so the soles were no longer Vibram soles. And I was thinking that they purchased them when that collaboration came back to be, but that is not the case. Vibram is an independent Italian company.
So I wonder if I had my soles got my Chaco sandals got restrapped and resoled at the time that they did not have that collaboration was on pause.
Maybe. I would imagine that there was whatever the issue was must have affected multiple manufacturers.
Yeah, I could see that.
So we've spent a decent amount of time on shoes, and I'm going to be honest, there are two other topics that are in the list that I'm very interested in getting to. Was there anything else surrounding the shoes in general that you wanted to touch on before I ask the next question?
Yeah, there was one more, and that was the way I wear my Nike Air Zoom Wildhorse 4 trail runners.
Sounds so much like an ad read.
I know. I feel so inclined to read the entire, use the entire name. I am also a person that is sometimes inclined to order food by reading the exact name of the food on the menu, and then also continuing to read the entire description of the food, of the entree that I'm ordering. I don't know why I get pleasure out of that, but I do. So the thing I was going to say about those shoes is that I wear them as my normal, sort of tennis shoes out and about. And it's nice because, sometimes I feel, ooh, we're going to go, do a little hike, and I feel cool. I'm ready to go. But I feel like I do the funnest thing with them. I never tie those shoes. I slip them on and I slip them off, and I have them, the laces are not tied in a bow. I have them tied just with the right tightness so that I can slip them on and slip them off, and then not feel like they're going to come off while I'm walking around, or even I could run in them and not feel like they're coming off. And I have them just sort of knotted in such a way that to keep the laces looking neat and also out of the way. So that was the other thing I just wanted to say about those shoes.
I actually do that with my Zero shoes as well. Every once in a while, I'll untie them and retie them just as a matter of principle. But for the most part, they just stay tied, and I slip them on and off.
The only time I've tied them is when I've had to feel if I feel like I'm doing something where I definitely don't want them to slip off. But it's been years since I've tied them.
The next topic in the list, and we've already talked a little bit about Gore-Tex. Was there anything more specific that you wanted to touch on there?
Yeah, I did a quick look up, and I saw that it is a waterproof, breathable fabric membrane, and it is designed to repel water, but also allow water vapor to pass through. So it is a membrane. I forgot about that, and that's why they work so well in jackets, and that's how they're able to keep them so lightweight. And so it is. It's composed of stretched, I'm going to read this, polytetrafluoroethylene, or PTFE, and that is more commonly known as Teflon.
Okay. I seem to have some of that coming back to me as far as the original marketing and branding material.
In my head, if you had said, "Hey, when was Gore-Tex invented?" I would have said the 90s, the early 90s or the late 80s, but it was invented in 1969. I don't know when they started using it widely in for general public use, but it's been since 1969. So it's a great technology.
As far as the jackets and everything, when I would have been become familiar with them was either 90 or really early 90s.
Yeah, that's when I remember, that's probably when I was started being old enough to recognize something like that, like a technology that's used and marketed and so forth.
And what's you had something else linked with the
DCF.
DCF, yeah.
Yeah. So DCF is it's a really cool fabric. I realized in the list here that we made for today's notes, I didn't put anything about tarps because I use a tarp with a hammock, and then I saw the DCF and I was like, oh, okay, this is where I'll cover tarps. And DCF is a Dyneema composite fiber. It used to be called Cuben fiber, and I say Cuben or Cuban, I don't know. It's spelled Cuben. And the fiber was, excuse me, the fiber Cuban came from the term. It came from. Sorry, I'm blanking. It came from like the reference in the press when covering the America's Cup in the early '90s, and it was a fiber that was used to create sails for sailboats. So America's Cup is a sailing race, and this fiber is incredibly lightweight, incredibly strong, waterproof, and used on sailboats for racing. And I don't know when it got used when it started being used for camping, but it became very popular in the early 2010s for tarps. It was really expensive. I want to say a good quality 11-foot tarp is going to run like $100, $150.
Oh, wow.
In 2017, when I was looking at to buy a tarp for my, end of 2016, I was looking to buy a tarp for my hammock. Cuben fiber tarp, because it was called Cuben, still called Cuben fiber at the time, was something like $350 for like a slightly smaller tarp. It might be 11 inches, but it would have a cat cut so that it was like less material. But the benefit of it is incredibly light. Like it's something like other tarp materials are typically sil poly or sil nylon, which is silicone impregnated nylon or silicone impregnated, I guess, polyester. Those materials as tarps pack down really well, and they are they're water resistant, and they usually a good 11-foot tarp for comparing things. It's going to probably weigh 14 to 16 ounces with the sil poly or sil nylon. The same size tarp made of Cuben fiber is going to weigh like 5 to 6 ounces.
Well, that's a huge difference when you're talking about carrying it in.
Yes, it's a massive difference. And then, so it's now called Dyneema composite fiber because it was the IP was sold to another company and they rebranded it as Dyneema composite fabric. And the prices have gone way down, such that I ended up buying I needed to buy a second tarp, and I bought a DCF tarp a couple of years ago, and it was something like $240. And so just over in 2 years, the same tarp dropped in price by $100, just because I guess they're producing it more, and there's more of a supply for the demand and so forth. And so it's the price went down low enough that I really wanted it, and it's probably one of the strongest fabrics that's out there. It's so cool. It's so light, and it's great. So the other thing that I've been seeing on the market for things is they now make backpacks out of this. So you can buy a full-on backpack that is made entirely of like the pack itself is made out of Dyneema, which is great because it means you don't need a rain fly, and you don't ever have to worry about your pack getting wet and carrying water weight. So they also make a number of shelters. Basically, you look at this thing, it looks like a tent, and it's made out of this DCF, and it's incredibly light, so it negates the need for a rain fly.
That's pretty neat.
Yeah.
Makes you wonder a little bit though how waterproof like the window style or opening. Like I would have to look at it and see. Historically the rainfly was most pertinent or most important because of those zippered openings and things that you couldn't necessarily seal easily. And of course the fabric wasn't designed to be waterproof on the tent because of the existence of the fly in general. So I'm sure there's some other engineering things like maybe an extra flap of fabric that covers the zipper would negate it, or who knows. That'd be something I would find interesting to read about.
Yeah, I know the company I know that is like using there's a company down in Florida called Z-Packs, and they make a lot of backpacks, and they have some really cool backpacks. One that I think is notable is the Arc Haul. It's designed so that the actual pack itself is arced away from the back to allow maximum airflow. So it doesn't actually the pack itself doesn't rest on your back, and you just have the suspension that's touching your body. And I thought that was pretty cool. But they're one of the companies that is using, or one of the companies that I know about that's using a lot of DCF. And they are making packs out of it. They make shelters out of it, and the shelters are really minimal. Like you buy the shelter, and the intention is that they basically send you the Dyneema shelter, and you use your trekking poles for the structure of the shelter. They don't actually send a set of poles to go with it. You stake it down, use your trekking poles to hold the tops up, with some guy line, and that's it. And there's no windows. There's no there's no rainfly because the shelter itself is waterproof. It's great because they can seam seal everything, so you don't have to worry about sewn leaking through sewn seams. Everything is it's the seam sealing is done with heat, and they're actually really easy to patch if you get a hole, because I think you can just use I'd have to go and look, but you can take another piece of DCF and apply it to the portion that needs to be patched. And I think you maybe use a heat gun or an iron. I'm not sure which, but use heat to actually patch the hole. So the patches are a lot easier. And they don't. I know the ones that I've seen from Z-Packs don't have windows. So that's just the solution to that problem is you don't have a window. So I don't know. The thing I don't really know about it is like how breathable it is. So like ventilation is, a thing. But I think that they have like designed it so that where the trekking poles used to support the top of the shelter, there's some air ventilation through that area that is based on the way it's constructed. You don't have water unless rains upward against gravity. You don't have to worry about water getting into the tent or the shelter.
So that makes sense. I picked up on when you were first talking about it that you called it a shelter and not a tent. And yeah, I was thinking about the tent comparison. But after describing it, that makes a lot more sense.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that the thing with the tents are like, you have a tent and it's made out of a lightweight fabric that's breathable but also not waterproof. And then when needed, you throw the rain fly on it so that you reduce your ventilation, but you now have water, the waterproof nature of the fly protecting the tent and its occupants.
It does make me interested in potentially the combination of a traditional tent and instead of the rainfly, a DCF tarp.
Yeah, so that is, I've thought, one of the things I've thought about is like for some places that I'd like to go hiking, camping, there's simply not a place to hang a hammock. You go out west. I mean, there's most of the, there's a lot of the west that is just not suitable for hammock camping. And so I've actually looked at like a minimalist tent, like a thru hiker tent. I would say like I'm a bit of an MSR fanboy, and they make a really lightweight mesh tent. And I was like, I can use my existing DCF tarp with that tent, and it would be super light.
Yeah, that's. I saw that link. I looked at it. I didn't look that close at it. I just went ahead and dropped in a link to the tent that I bought. I don't even remember how long ago now, that it's still never actually been taken out of the bag and used.
Big and Agnes, they make good tents. I know a lot of folks that use the Big Agnes tents, and the link that I have for the MSR, it's the MSR Velo, and I got that tent in 2004, and it is so heavy and so bulky. This is back in the time when 35 pounds was considered lightweight. That tent weighs 9 pounds outside, like if you pack it as minimal as possible, it's about 9 pounds. And the shelters that I was, like these DCF shelters that we're talking about, for the same footprint or comparably similar footprint, we're talking under a pound. Now I'm second guessing, is it under a pound or not? I don't know. But it's significantly lighter. I was going to say night and day lighter.
I decided to look up real quick when I bought that tent, because I knew I bought it after, or around the time that I thought it was around the time that Jacob was born. I actually bought it in 2016. So, a little bit after, but it was in preparation for when we would finally go camping. I would already have what I needed, and I was able to catch it when they were clearing out inventory, I think on Amazon, actually.
Yeah, I would say that if I had to guess, that Big Agnes is probably, it benefits from the newer fabric technologies that have been available for the past half decade or so. I did a quick look up the Z-Packs duplex tent. I would say it's comparable to the MSR Velo that I have. The MSR Velo is really special, and I'll explain that. But the duplex that Z-Packs makes is 19 ounces. My tent is 9 pounds.
And this Big Agnes tent that I've got, I'll go ahead and mention it. It's the Rocky Peak 4, and it's they call it, or it has
the Mountain Glow.
Yeah. I was
love
trying to
that
think.
feature.
It's not really a suffix. What's the proper grammatical term for an addendum?
It's the trim level. It's a trim level.
Yeah, there you go. But it's designed as a car camping tent anyway. But it's 7 pounds 7 ounces and a packed weight of 8 pounds.
How many people?
4.
Yeah, my Velo, 2 people. It's heavier for half as many people.
Yeah, and of course my use case, I knew that at least for the first decade of Jacob's life, we weren't going to be really carrying any gear and hiking into a campsite. Any camping that we do is going to have to be relatively accessible. So weight wasn't a huge factor for me when I was looking at alternatives. What I did like, though, was that Mountain Glow feature, because that's really neat, and it's basically just LEDs sewn into the interior to provide lighting.
I love that feature. I think that feature is so cool. I remember seeing that and I was like, I'm a little jealous.
I also bought, at the time, I went ahead and bought the tent and the footprint and the, I think they call it an attic. It's basically just a suspension shelf that is designed for the top of it, top of the tent, that also has some additional Mountain Glow lighting.
When I picked out my MSR Velo, the thing that attracted me most to it was the rainfly. When the rain, MSR made this Velo tent, and they made another tent called the Sidewinder, and these have all been discontinued. They made the Sidewinder, and it was like a standard 2-person tent with a rainfly. The Velo is the Sidewinder, but with a rainfly that is twice as big as the Sidewinder rainfly. So when the rainfly is set up, you have this massive vestibule where you can put whatever it is you want to put under there, and it's when I saw that, I wasn't thinking about weight. I was like, that's just cool. And in the picture, I remember there's a bicycle in the vestibule. Like they pictured it with a bicycle under the vestibule, and I thought there's plenty of room. I want a big roomy tent, and so the use of it has always been for car camping, even though it's considered a 3-season backpacking tent by 2004 standards. And so I did, like you, I bought the available footprint for it, and I don't regret that one single bit. It's great to just be able to slap that down and not worry about it being too big or too small. And I have since found good uses for it because my kids have used it. I've taken them on some trips where there weren't trees for them to hang their hammocks, and so I'd set up this velo, and it was so cool. The last time we used it, we were over at Gunnersville Lake, and they both had their chairs set up in the vestibule. So the vestibule's open. They're sitting in the vestibule. They're seeing their friends. They're coming in and out, and it was just a really cool, like, they're sitting on their tent front porch, and I thought that was so cool. So it was really cute.
Yeah, one of the things I liked about a previous tent, so the one that I used to use, or actually there were two different ones I used to use. Both were fairly inexpensive, off the store shelf Eddie Bauer style tents, right? And I know one of them for sure had the Eddie Bauer branding, and the other one might have been Coleman. Nothing that was. It was just off the shelf department store tents, basically.
Yeah, those are the ones that come with the steel tent supports.
Right. And they worked perfectly fine for our use cases. I got plenty of use out of them. But the thing that I remember about both, the first one, the one that may have been a Coleman, was huge. Like you could have 6-8 people in it, no big deal.
Yep.
You could stand up in the middle without being hunched over or anything. With the Rainfly, it had kind of the similar massive opening or coverage over the opening. The other one was more designed to be an attempt at being a lightweight tent for 4 people. But what I liked about it is the way it was designed. You had the main compartment, but then you had this almost like an add-on pod, even though it was a part of the same tent. So it was just a protrusion off to one side that was designed as a place to stow your gear that wasn't taking up the sleeping space. And I just remember that being a fairly neat design in theory. Was not a very neat design in attempting to get it set up and actually use it appropriately.
Oh, yeah.
But it served its purpose. And so knowing that Emily had never been camping, and of course Jacob's never been camping, but knowing that I wanted their experience to be enjoyable, to say the least, everything that influenced my decisions on going ahead and getting that Big Agnes tent was designed around, once set up, how comfortable is it? How much room do you have? Do you feel constricted? If we were having to stay in the tent under the Rainfly, would it be fun or would it just be miserable? That kind of thing. And I think it ticks all those boxes appropriately.
Yeah. I think the only thing you could do better for is one of the charm tents from Harry Potter.
If somebody ever managed to come up with something like that, I would be on it in a heartbeat. I don't care how expensive it was.
Totally. That's like the one of the last times I used my tent for me, where I was sleeping in it, was in 2005. I'd gone up to Bear Mountain State Park in New York and set up the tent, and it was like, a little bit drizzly that evening, and it rained, and it rained, and it rained, and it rained all night long. And there's not really a lot that you can do in a tent in the rain. And it was October, and it was cold. It was like the bone-chilling wet rain. And it was just like, that camping trip was like, all right, went out into the woods, slept. We didn't get wet, but slept relatively less comfortable than, at home. And got up the next morning. There's nothing really going on, nothing to do. At the time, I did not plan it well. I didn't plan at all for it to be raining, even though I could have looked at the forecast and see that it was going to rain. And so I went home, and then I did not camp for 10 years after that. It was like it was 10 years to the month that I camped again. And then I had the experience of camping in the rain with a hammock. And I think I talked about this already, but it was absolutely brilliant. You can sit in your hammock. You have a tarp up. If you're with other people out there with tarps up, you can go from tarp to tarp. You can set a chair up. All the ground underneath you is dry. You can extend if you have your tarp in an A shape, like an A-frame shape, you can open it up even bigger so that you have more ground that's covered. And it was just so nice to be like, there's dry ground underneath me, and we can sit and we can talk and we can do stuff, rather than in a tent, you're like all closed up and the only thing that's dry is inside the tent. And so that is my biggest, like, the thing that I would use to be like, I feel like is the most convincing thing to switching to like, at least using a tarp. I've seen where people have a tent set up and then they have a tarp that's set up over the tent as well and like extends out to be like sort of a porch. So that solves that problem. So it's not limited to like a hammock, but definitely if you're going to be in the rain, have a tarp in addition to whatever other shelter you're using.
That does bring me to the other big talking point that I wanted to get into. I had not heard of Warbonnet previously, so I went and poked around a little bit on their website after I saw the link. And I like the Hammocking 101 page.
Yeah.
I was going to work my way through it. I have not actually. I bookmarked it, and I haven't actually had a chance to go read through it. But talk to me a bit about the hammock choice and just why it's here.
So my foray into hammock camping started in 2016. It's like in January of 2016, I went with a group of folks on a paddling trip, and we paddled down Big Escambia Creek in Alabama. That's right. It actually takes us, I think we ended up in Florida, just like barely over the state line. And it was like one of those like really wonderful January days where it's sunny out and the high is like in the mid 60s. And it's just a really great day to be outside. My friend Ellery had always, he was like, I want to do outdoor stuff all the time. And he always had issues with sleeping. He did not get a good night's sleep when he slept on the ground. So he saw, hammock camping as a thing. Like it's, prior to like talking to Ellery about hammock camping, if you had mentioned hammocks to me, I would be like, oh yeah, those are cool hammocks. Those are like way cooler than the, like the string or rope hammocks that you'd see, that I'd seen previously. And, it's sort of like, I feel like it's like one of those things where it's like, ooh, this is super cool, but people in the hammock camping community kind of look down on it. And I feel like it's not fair because, who the hell are you to say what somebody else should be doing? If it works for them, it works for them. I know with hiking, there's a thing called hike your own hike, which is like the whole attitude of like, just because you're really enthusiastic about your gear and the way you do things doesn't mean I'm going to be equally enthusiastic. And so the hike your own hike idea is, I'll ask you if I have some questions and I think I want answers from you, but I don't need you to solicit your opinion to me. And so we all figure out things in our own way. And so I feel like the same thing, hang your own hang. So if Eno works for you, by all means, I'm glad you're hammock camping in an Eno. So I just wanted to throw that in there. Anyway, I started talking to Ellery, or rather, he started proselytizing me. And the morning, it was a one-night trip that morning, it was like a Sunday morning, he was like, "Hey, you should try out my hammock." And so I get into the hammock, and I'm instantly enveloped in warmth and coziness. And there's this aspect of like, I feel like sort of tucked away and safe, but I also can look out and see, out the side. And I'm just like, this is lovely. And so I was like, I want to switch to using a hammock for camping. And so the particular hammock that he had is a brand called Warbonnet. And I'd actually like spent maybe 9 months looking at all the different major brands from the cottage vendors. So you could say the cottage. It took me a while to really figure out what cottage vendor meant, but it was kind of like they're not these big box established brands. So like MSR would be like an established camping brand. North Face, Mountain Hardwear, those kind of things. Patagonia, those are mostly clothing companies, but Mountain Hardwear and North Face both make equipment. They're sort of like the established brands. They sell in the typical channels that you would find camping gear. The cottage vendors sprung up from the use of hammocks for camping in the late 2000s. Some of the early hammock campers were there's a guy, Thomas Riesler. He's now one of the cottage vendors that makes hammocks. But he had his first thing of note was that he was one of the first people to like talk about doing a through hike of the Appalachian Trail and only using a hammock. He didn't use a tent at all, and he used a Hennessy hammock, which was I think one of the only camping hammocks that was on the market at the time. And in the late 2000s, lots of people were getting into hammock camping, and so people would make their own hammocks. They would buy fabrics, they'd buy various Robic and ripstop fabrics and sew their own hammocks. And out of that sprung various cottage vendors. So they're more than just DIY people, but less than the established camping brands that use various channel partners to sell their goods. They, with the use with the internet being available for having online stores, it was really easy for them to not have to have channel partners. And Warbonnet is I feel like one of the best hammock brands that's out there in the cottage vendor industry. They're based out in Evergreen, Colorado. They sew everything in Evergreen. The guy who started it, he designs the hammocks, but then he's got like a team of people that sew. So I don't think he's no longer sewing them himself. So their stitching quality and material quality is so good. But he's sort of like made some iterations to the 11-foot gathered hammock that have been really cool. So for a person my size, like I'm 6'2", the hammock I would use is an 11-foot hammock. And so like it's basically a rectangle that's 11 feet long, and the ends have been gathered on either side and bound up, and that's where you suspend it from the tree. And there's some various other details that go along with exactly how you want to hang your hammock and to get a good hang. But once you've got it hung up, the particular hammock I have is the Blackbird XLC, and that's their large hammock. So that I'm assuming XLC is extra large camping, but I'm not sure. But they also make a Blackbird that is a 10-foot hammock, and I'm I would be cramped in that hammock. So the Blackbird name came from a couple of innovations that he's made to the hammock itself. The base hammock is it's that 11-foot rectangle with the gathered ends, and then it has a bug net that zips onto it. And the bug net has some additional fabric sewn onto it so that you can use guy lines and pull either side of the bug net out and stake it down. And the side that you do not get in on has a shelf. So it's this piece of fabric that folds over the rest of the hammock where you can actually store things in. And that's really nice. And there's also another piece of fabric that allows you to lay down more diagonally inside the hammock so that you can have a flatter lay. Because the dynamics of lying in a hammock is that you have your hammock hung up and it sags in the middle. And there's actually a piece of am steel. I meant to put a link into this when we were for materials, but there's a piece of am steel that runs across the top of the hammock that creates a structural ridge line. And what that structural ridge line does is it keeps the same amount of sag in your hammock so that no matter how tightly you have your suspension between two trees, the sag in the hammock is the same every time. So no matter how tight you pull it, this structural ridge line keeps it from being keeps the hammock from being pulled out any farther than you desire it to be. Is that making sense?
Yeah, that makes sense.
Okay. Like in my head, I can picture. I know exactly what I'm talking about, but I don't know if it's coming out that way. So that structural ridge line is usually, or at least the one on my hammock, and most of the hammocks I've seen is a woven cord called am steel. And there's various sizes of am steel, and there's various applications from am steel. I think it's a cord that has been primarily used in it's primarily, or it got to start with nautical use, much like the DCF. Anyway, it keeps the appropriate amount of sag so that when you lie in the hammock, you don't want to lie end to end in line with the suspension, because if you lie in line with the suspension, you're gonna be like bent like a banana inside that hammock. But if you rotate your body so that you are at an angle from the straight line from suspension to suspension or end to end, your body spreads that fabric out, and you end up getting your body ends up being more flat because it's rigid in that fabric, causing the fabric to spread out and allowing you to lay more flat. And so this foot box that Brandon, the owner of Warbonnet, the founder of Warbonnet, has added to the bug net allows you to extend your feet out even farther so that you can get a flatter lay in the hammock, and which results in a more comfortable experience, a more comfortable night's sleep.
Something I glanced at and had some questions on, this was off of their site specifically. I noticed references to single layer and double layer hammocks from a fabric perspective. In my mind, I just picture that as the difference between like a traditional hammock is a single layer of fabric, and so a double would be what amounts to 2 layers of that fabric on top of each other.
Yes, and it serves a couple of purposes. Actually, one purpose is I think the main purpose that people would use it for is that it serves as it's structurally stronger. It's stronger. It's a stronger fabric. When you have 2 of the same fabric put together, the payload is much higher. So I have a double layer hammock, and I have the version. I have like a 1.0 version of the XLC, and I think what you would look at now is like their 2.0 version, or maybe their 1.5. I don't know. I feel like there's enough changes that I would call it a 2.0, but versioning is a whole other thing that we could talk about. And because, Big Sur is Mac OS 11.0.
Or 10.16.
Yes. I think officially in the GM it's 11.
Yeah.
Anyway, but it was 10.16 at one time, and it was just like, what's going on? So, and the fabrics that they're using now at Warbonnet are slightly different, and the offerings are slightly different. They used to have a lightweight double. They used to have a single layer with a heavyweight fabric and a double layer with two with lightweight fabric, 2 layers with the lightweight fabric, and 2 double layer with the heavyweight fabric. I have the double with heavyweight fabric from those days, simply because it had a greater payload. It was rated for 400 pounds of weight, and that's static weight. If you start rocking in the hammock, 400, 150 pounds can become a lot more than 150. The dynamic forces of 150 pounds become a lot greater. So the other purpose that it serves is that you can put a sleeping pad in between the layers, and for some people the logic is that it sort of keeps it in place so that you're not directly on the pad. I have used a pad once and I didn't really care for it, so I've never really tried to make that work. The pad I was using was way too small for the hammock anyway, and it's just not the way I wanted to go for insulation underneath my hammock. But the idea is it's mostly sewn up so that the 2 layers are sewn together almost all the way around, but they do leave an opening. Probably I think the main reason is so that you can stick a pad in there if that's how you want to insulate yourself in the hammock. And then the third one that I've heard people say is that it is good for insects. It's harder for an insect to bite through 2 layers versus 1 layer.
That makes sense. A lot of times the simple answer is one of the original reasons for doing something, and then you find other added benefits.
Exactly. I love that. But I'd venture to guess the main reason you have a double layer hammock is that for weight. So the other thing that I thought was super cool, and we'll have to make a picture of this available, but the reason the blackbird is called the blackbird, I initially thought it was because, blackbirds are a bird that you see in nature, and maybe they just like the blackbird. But it turns out the blackbird and the Blackbird XLC hammocks by Warbonnet are not at all, have nothing to do with ornithology at all. When the guy line, when you hang the hammock and you have the guy lines for the bug net pulled, the blackbird hammock looks like the blackbird spy plane.
Oh, that's pretty neat.
Yeah, I thought that was so cool. I'm trying to remember. It's the blackbird spy plane was did a quick look up. It's the Lockheed SR-71 Blackbird. It was a spy plane that they developed in the 70s. I think it was or maybe it was 60s they developed it, but it was definitely for Cold War use. Definitely, spying on Russia and other communist countries, but probably mostly Russia. But when it's guyed out, it looks like a Blackbird aircraft. I thought that was really cool, and I was just blew my mind.
Yeah, that I'm gonna have to go look closer at the pictures. I didn't actually browse most of the site. I found the reference to the Hammocking 101 page and realized when I was looking at the options and everything, I had no clue what they were referencing, and so I needed to read more about the product offerings and how to choose and all before I could even begin to adequately talk about what they had to offer.
Well, one of the things, and this is what's been really cool about the hammock camping community, is that there have been a few enthusiasts. Well, I'll back up just a little bit. Around 2009 is probably when it started taking there's a mass effect or a big gathering of people interested in this way of camping, and so they created a forum. And there's hammockforums.net, and there's a lot of stuff in there where folks, it's a still very active platform where a lot of folks talk about hammock camping, and there's over a decade's worth of, this is how you solve this problem. Here are solutions. Here are ways that we tried to solve this problem, and these didn't work, and so forth, and just a huge resource for hammock camping. There's a Facebook group that's not as good as the forums. Sadly for me, the forums are it's just not a platform that I really like or understand or have any comfort of for looking through the materials. It's something I go to every once in a while when I absolutely need something, but it's very rare that I go there. But I know for the people that really like it, that they're very active there, and it's a good place to find a lot of information about hammock camping. But for me, by the time I was interested in it, there's sort of an unofficial YouTube guide to hammock camping. There's one of the early members of the hammock camping community is a man from North Carolina. His name is Sean Emery. He goes by Shug. I believe he got that nickname when he was singing in church, and somebody told him he sounded sweet as sugar. So he has a YouTube channel, and it's excellent. It's SHUG, Shug Emery, or Sean Emery. It's one of the two on YouTube. And he has a really good 9-part series on everything that you could possibly want to know about getting started with hammock camping. And each of those 9 videos is about 10 minutes long. So altogether, it's about an hour and a half, and it's broken down in lots of really great information. And he's also done some follow-up videos as the trends in technology and hammock camping have changed. He's made some addendum videos. So I think there's maybe like 12 videos out there, 13 videos out there. So that's what I got started with. What makes it so good is the information's good. It's solid information. He's got a very hang your own hang attitude. This is what works for me. Here's what you can try out for yourself. Here's where you can go look for other things if you don't like the way this works or you don't want to do it this way. So it's a very laid back thing. But Shug is also an entertainer, like a professional entertainer. I think he retired this year because all of his gigs got canceled because of the pandemic. So he decided, he's at the age where he decided to retire. But in his career, he was a circus clown for Barnum and Bailey and Ringling Brothers. And I know that he was one of the things, I guess, a point of notoriety is that he was able to perform at the White House for Ronald Reagan. Like, he was that level of entertainer, and it really comes out in his videos. He makes some really fun videos. I remember when I first started watching them, I was like, okay, this guy's eccentric, but it grew on me, and it grew on me pretty fast. And so he makes the videos really entertaining. He's a great instructor, a fun person to watch, and if anyone's interested in hammock camping, that is where I would start, as watching his videos, because they're 10-minute bite-sized videos that you can watch here and there, and he's pretty fun. He does voices, does accents. It's great.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to take a look, and I'll make sure I find the link and drop it in the show notes as well.
Yeah. So one of the things that's super cool. Excuse me. One of the things that's really cool about Shug is that he's from North Carolina. He's got a good Southern flair, but like I really feel like at this point, like when he talks naturally, he has a very nondescript Middle America type accent. So you wouldn't necessarily know that he's from North Carolina, but sometimes he definitely puts on a thick Southern accent, and he's a big fan of barbecue. He's got a bunch of barbecue videos on his channel as well. But he also does a really fun, interesting sort of French Canadian accent. And he knows enough words and enough languages that he can mess around and sort of play around with that. But he currently lives in Minnesota. And one of the things they do there is they try to like push the extremes of camping in cold. And he's got a video where he's done a hammock camping trip, and the low went below -40.
That just does not sound fun or appealing at all to me.
I feel the same way. I was like, I don't like it to be that cold. I like it to be I like it to be brisk so that I can get in my hammock and be warm and cozy. But I love it when it's like warm in the day and I can wear shorts. But I do like it to be brisk at night, and you can cuddle up. I was a couple of weeks ago when I took my kids camping. That was like perfect camping weather. I was like sitting next to a fire wearing shorts. I didn't feel like I needed a jacket on because it wasn't cold. My shoulders weren't. It wasn't cold on my back, but the fire wasn't too hot on my front. And then I got into my hammock and I got nice and cozy. Like that was just like the perfect weather for camping. And to see these guys go down to like -40, he's got a whole video on his winter setup. Consequently, he also talks about here are the things that you can do to not be cold while you're camping when it's cold. So I've camped in like I think the coldest I've slept out it was 25 degrees was the low. I was perfectly warm in my hammock and so like not just perfectly warm but like cozy warm in my hammock. And there's a lot of things that I have seen from his videos that have helped me stay warm and not get cold while I camp. And so it's definitely, even though I never want to camp under those conditions, it's definitely been helpful.
I think it's also just helpful information to have in the event that you get stuck somewhere where it's that cold and you need to come up with solutions to staying warm. If you're the type of person,
January 2014.
Yeah, if you're the type of person like me, where like now that I have room to put stuff in the Jeep and carry it all the time, and still have plenty of cargo space, I've dropped a pack with a hammock and a couple of carabiners and things in there, and I still have to dig out a couple of the space blankets that I know I've got somewhere around here that are the emergency blankets. But just keeping that kind of stuff handy in a backpack in the vehicle could be a huge benefit. And if you learn something that's relatively simple and compact from camping in the cold like that, then why not apply it to a potential survival situation?
I agree 100%. I don't keep something in my truck all the time, but whenever there's potential for snow in the forecast, I pack my pack and I'm ready to like spend the night out in the snow if I have to.
Yeah, that's lesson learned from that particular event for sure. Because we can do a side story on it real quick. I was working for a financial company. We provided services in a data center to the financial sector, so our customers were banks. And I had the Jetta at the time, and I could have easily made it home if not for all the people who, for some reason or another, decided that once they no longer felt comfortable, they wouldn't bother trying to get out of the way on the road. They would just get out of their car and leave it.
Oh, the people, like, it's like somebody say, I've heard, when people say, oh, people just do not know how to drive in the snow down here. It's like, no. People don't know how to drive in the sunshine in this city.
Yeah, it's definitely not limited to snow. It's just a complete lack of awareness and understanding on what to do to care one way or another about any vehicle other than yours.
Whenever I have a conversation with a Second Amendment rights activist, which I am not against the Second Amendment, and I'm sort of against like the pretenses that are put up in as a like, oh, this is a it's worthy for me to want to protect my family with a gun. I was like, no, guns are cool. You like guns because guns are cool. You don't need anything more than that. So I'm not against the Second Amendment, folks' Second Amendment rights. But whenever I talk to people with Second Amendment rights, and I disagree with them because my position is that it's really way too hard to get your hands on any sort of firearm in this country. Inevitably they bring up, or often they bring up, cars, and car's a weapon. It's like, it's not a weapon, it's a tool. But I think it's so easy to get a driver license in this country. It should be so much harder to be able to get a driver license in this country, in this state. It is just way too easy. So that argument doesn't work with me. Too easy to get a gun, too easy to get a car.
Yeah, I have no argument on either of those points. And it's interesting because we certainly have different views in general about, or maybe not different views, different history and experiences when it comes to like firearms. Because I grew up around firearms. It's not something that's odd at all for me. And I have two handguns of my own that are. Realistically, why did I buy them? Because I wanted to. At the end of the day, that was it. Yeah. Would I use it in a self-defense situation? It's probably not the first thing I'm going to go for, to be honest. All of my training in general when it comes to self-defense has been focused on something like breaking the leg of somebody that's close by and getting away. So it's very strong immediate offense, and then get away from them however you can. And my first thought just is not going to be run, grab a gun. It's going to be knock them out or disorient them and get the hell out of there. That said, if I were one of those that I carried all the time and practiced, maybe I would think about it first. Realistically, though, I don't want to deal with the ramifications of shooting somebody. That said, if I hear something come through my window in the middle of the night, you can bet I'm going to grab that gun when I go investigate as well.
Totally.
There's both sides of it. But I do agree 100% that it is way too easy to get a handgun, and way too easy to get a firearm permit or a concealed carry permit, and way too easy to get a driver's license. All of those things I 100% agree on, even though I have maybe a different viewpoint in general about what you should or shouldn't be able to have, and what all that boils down to.
Yeah, my only experience with guns has been disassembling and reassembling them, because that's so much fun. I really enjoy doing that, but I've never fired a gun. I have talked to folks that own guns, and I not even owning a gun. It's like if somebody were to hand a gun to me, I want to know what to do. I don't want to be guns are incredibly dangerous. And I don't want to be a person who just doesn't know what they're doing. So I've learned this is when you're handed a gun, this is exactly what you do. You make sure that there's nothing in the chamber, or I guess maybe check if it has a safety, you make sure the safety is on, you make sure there's nothing in the chamber, and so forth. And
it does depend on, of course, the model or style of firearm, but generally speaking, for any semi-automatic, if it's handed to you and it is not handed to you in an actual safe manner, which means that you have watched that person eject the clip and lock the slide back so that you can see that the chamber's empty. For anybody listening, that is absolutely how you should be handing a firearm to anybody on the planet. I don't care how versed they are in guns.
I agree.
But if they have not done that, then the first step is to eject the clip. Whether it's empty or not, doesn't matter. You eject the clip, lock the slide back, make sure everybody is aware that it's empty. And then if you want to go from that to demonstrating how to hold it, or I don't really know what you would be doing with a firearm that wouldn't be just being prepared to shoot with it. That's kind of a whole separate tangent and discussion. But the only place that kind of falls apart is when you're talking about a revolver style firearm, or rifles and shotguns. You kind of do the same type thing.
There's no magazine or clip.
Yeah, but the revolver, the proper way is kind of similar. You take the I don't remember the technical term now. The chamber that the bullets are in, and you unlock it and cock it to the side, drop the bullets out, and then hand it over. That way you can very clearly see that there's nothing in it. Same type principle, basically.
Honestly, I think that the sort of it's not just tea ceremony when you describe the way you describe that. It's not just tea ceremony. That's for safety, but there is a tea ceremony aspect of unloading a gun like that. And I find it really fascinating. I think it's very cool. But it's sort of one of the questions I've been asked many times is do you carry a firearm when you go camping? And I'm at this point in this podcast, the obvious answer is no, because I've never fired a firearm. I don't own any firearms. I've never owned a firearm. I carry a knife with me, but that's just for utility. It's the knife I carry is I think it's got a 3-inch blade, so it's a really lightweight. Oh, this should have been a topic, but it's a very lightweight knife. I've got a couple of more knives, which are Swedish, inexpensive plastic handled steel, actually high quality steel bladed knives. But I carry like a 3-inch knife, and it's for utility, not for protection. Um, you know, I'm fairly confident it's safer out on the trail than it is in the city. Like I've never been in a situation in my life where I've ever felt like my life was in danger and I'm going to have to beat up this person. Like I've just never, like I've, I live in a nice neighborhood, live in places like that. Go to places like that. I've never looked for trouble. I've never put myself in a situation where I could get into that kind of trouble. I've been fortunate enough to not have been accidentally stepped into a situation or an area where that I could have that kind of trouble. Even my girlfriend lives in a part of town that is it's a little bit rougher. It's one that it's going to be up and coming, and it's like when we hear we hear gunshots there from time to time, but I actually hear gunshots in my neighborhood that's Vestavia Hills adjacent. But I feel like it's a very different kind of thing, very different, but it's way less often. But in my girlfriend's neighborhood, I've never felt uncomfortable or unsafe.
Yeah, I can think of a couple of instances where I have had some level of an unsafe feeling, and both I think were relatively unavoidable. So one, I remember going to Six Flags as a kid on a Fright Night or during Fright Night celebrations. I don't know exactly. It seems like that was every Friday during the month of October. Or who knows what it is now? Or maybe it was every night of the week of Halloween. But
yeah, I remember, like the week before Halloween.
Yeah, and so we went one year, and there were a number of large groups of people that were antagonizing each other in a way that you would expect potentially like rival gangs to antagonize each other.
Yeah.
And I don't know if it was gang related, which is why I'm kind of stepping around the topic. Like I don't want to theorize about what it was. It was groups of people who obviously had issues with other groups of people around them, and
it could have been like a rival high schools or something.
Yeah, I mean, it could have been anything, but it made for a couple of encounters that felt relatively unsafe and ended up making us decide that it was time to call it a night and head back home.
Yeah.
And again, it wasn't huge, but it was one of those things that just kind of, oh, this is what people talk about when they talk about feeling unsafe in an area, because that was my first experience with that type of thing. And the other was just in a controlled environment, sparring and boxing. You have that mindset of I have to attack and I have to defend, and so that's very much crafted and very much a part of learning those styles of or martial arts forms and then boxing, and that's just because of sheer interest. That it's not like it was a forced situation, and it's not like it was fearful. It was very much in the mindset of I'm here to fight, or I'm going to get the crap beat out of me if I don't.
Yeah, when I lived in New York, I felt the most unsafe I ever was it was about 9:00 at night. I was on the Upper West Side, and I was just on the edge of Central Park, and I felt like it was probably the most I didn't get freaked out or spooked or anything like this, but it was like I was like, I'm gonna get out of the park right now, and it was because there were like a raccoon that came down out of a tree, and then another raccoon. And then one came out. One got into the garbage can, and another one came out of the garbage can. And in the span of maybe 5 minutes, I was in between several sets of raccoons, and there were probably 20, 25 raccoons in the park. And I was like, this is uncomfortable. This is really uncomfortable. And I was like, I'm getting out of the park because there's a lot of raccoons. But that's the most unsafe I ever felt in New York. But granted, I would have to ride the subways after 11 o'clock. We had shifts at Apple that would end at 11 o'clock at night. It was back when when they first started all hands on deck, and it was you had a shift that started at 2 o'clock in the afternoon, and then the last 3 hours of your shift were repairs. That put me leaving work at 11 o'clock after 11 p.m. And, I'd ride the train from the Upper West Side down to Brooklyn. and I was never concerned. I was in good neighborhoods. I like never went through any like shady neighborhoods, but even like some like I've like ridden on the train through the Bronx and like the like way out in Brooklyn, and I was never uncomfortable. But at the same time, it's like I'm 6'2", 280. Like when I walk through a regular sized door, like my shoulders don't brush the sides of the doors, but they're pretty close. I can remember being over at a mutual friend's house, and I'm standing in his doorway, and he's just like, "You're blocking all the light now." I was like, "Oh, sorry," but like I had a manager. He was like 5'2". He was a Filipino man. He got mugged in the Bronx in his own neighborhood, but he's like, I'm not a target. Like I'm not a target. Like I'm not a target. Like he's a target. So maybe he's 5'4".
That was the other thing that was coming to mind as we were both talking about it in general, is that neither one of us are really the target demographic for being attacked either. I certainly would be more of a target than you. I have a much narrower frame, but I still am imposing enough, I guess, in the way I look at people. Like I have a good glare. I have a really good glare, and
what it is you put out some good fuck off vibes when you have to.
Yeah, and so generally speaking, I've never walked around and felt I had to look over my shoulder for anything, for a sound or whatever. And I get that there's a certain amount of privilege with that as well. That I don't know what it feels like to have to be concerned about it. And so how much of that is translated into that confidence and arrogance walking around that makes people want to leave you alone as well,
right,
is also a part of it. Like it all goes hand in hand. I was just going to say, whereas Emily, on the other hand, is absolutely the target demographic for being attacked. And something that always bugs me if she's going to be out and about somewhere in an area that I'm not necessarily certain about or know enough about to know kind of what to expect. And so I tend to prefer to be available. And if I'm not, then hopefully there's a group of people together. So
yeah, I remember reading I think it was a tweet, and a woman tweeted, is like, what would you, ladies, and this is just for women to answer, it's like, what would you do if men had an 8 p.m. curfew? And the responses broke my heart. Like all the things that they listed, like I'd go run at night. I wouldn't feel uncomfortable leaving my drink at the bar while I went to the restroom. Big long list of things like that I don't think about because I don't live in that world. Like I do basically everything that was on the list that women said that they would do if men had an 8 p.m. curfew. I already do all the time without question because I'm a dude and I'm not that target.
Yeah, I think the only thing that you mentioned there that I won't do is if I'm by myself, I'm not going to get up and leave a drink, accessible and go to the restroom just because I'm semi-paranoid with regard to something being put in my drink. But it's really unfounded. It's more just because it was drilled into us as a general statement of you don't leave your drink unattended. And I don't even know where exactly it came from originally, unless it was just focused around more women being targeted. And I just happened to pick up on that pretty heavily.
Yeah. I wouldn't leave my drink around either just because, that does happen. And, once you're drugged, I mean, you're kind of like SOL. But at the same time, it's like, who's going to, like, if I'm drugged enough, who's going to, like, be able to carry around who's going to move the 280-pound dude? Yeah. I mean, that's, unless you're another 280-pound dude. Yeah, totally. That's a thing. That's totally a thing. But it kind of reminded me of there's a stand-up comedian, Greer Barnes. He had a little bit about white women. He'd be like, so he's a black man, and he'll be walking down the street, just minding his own business, and he'll be like, "Uh-oh, it's a white woman," and then he'll start crossing the street and be like, "Uh-oh, it's another white woman," because they're dangerous to him. And then he's in New York, and he's like talking about being in the middle of the street and there's white women on either side, and he's like, I don't know what to do. And then the cab driver comes up in a thick Indian accent and says, "Get in." It's like, "It's not safe out there for you." And he goes on, and the bit goes on, and it's like the white woman holds him up, and he's like, "Give me your wallet, or I'm gonna scream." And it's like he gets in the bit, he gets mugged by a white woman because she's got that kind of power over him, and then he's like talking to the cop, and he's like, "And she did what? What? Sarah is her name?" And so it's a pretty funny bit.
I might have to look that one up. It sounds entertaining.
Yeah, I'll send it to you.
We had a nice little digression there, and we had another topic on the list going back to hiking and camping about packs. This is an area that I have no recent experience at all. The last pack that I had, I was in Boy Scouts.
Was it internal or external frame pack? If it had a frame, it was
external frame.
Yeah. Oh my God. I remember I love the external frame packs. I was like, I really wanted an external frame pack. And by the time I got a backpack for hiking, you really couldn't find external frame packs, but I just remember wanting one, I've since found out that they're way heavier and bulky and just all around less convenient. The first pack I got was this Arc'teryx Bora 80. And that was in 2005, and it fits the whole motif of heavier is heavy. Like lightweight is pretty heavy at this time, and it's an 8-pound pack, and it has 2 major chambers. So it has like this bottom chamber for sleeping bag and other soft things, so that you can just the general dynamics of how you would pack a pack while you're carrying it is like you want as much of the heaviest weights as close to your back as possible, and then in a sort of like radius you want lighter on the outside and towards the top and bottom. And so I know you know that, but I'm just saying it for our listeners. This pack had a bottom chamber and it was primarily for the sleeping bag and some other soft things, and then above that there was a large top loading chamber, and then the typical brain that goes over that it straps on, and it had like daisy chains on the back and very heavy material, water resistant, not waterproof, but water resistant material, very thick padding on the back, really comfortable hip belt, super thick padding on the hip belt, really thick spongy padding for the shoulder straps, and another small chamber on the outside back. So it's like it'd be like what you looked at. There was like another small chamber for keeping wet items in, so that you could keep them separated from the rest of your pack, and then 2 pockets on either side, and typically keep either like a inflatable seat and water in those pouches. And then the brain itself had a zippered opening, and then it also had like another hip belt inside the brain, so you could take it off and use it as like a fanny pack for like if you like set up camp somewhere and you wanted to take like a little day pack with you, you could use the brain for that. All that being said, all those materials, very tough, very strong, durable pack. It's a really good pack. It weighs over 8 pounds. So at the time, that was actually, like in 2005, that was still towards the heavier side. You would say that's a heavy pack, not a light pack. Definitely way lighter than an external frame pack. But it was like, it's on the heavier end, but the lighter packs were like 4 to 6 pounds. So it's not like hugely heavy, or not like so much heavier. And so it was, I got that size pack because like it was like sort of a compliment to my MSR Velo. That was a big tent, and that was like I needed the space for a big tent. And I used that pack. I actually did a 3-day trip in Arkansas in 2017 with that pack. I think my base weight was a little over 30 pounds. Or maybe my pack weight was like 35 pounds total with like food, water, and everything. But it rode really well. Like the Arc'teryx makes a great pack. The shoulder straps were incredibly comfortable. The hip belt's incredibly comfortable. And when I have it dialed in right, almost all the weight is riding on my hips. and the shoulder straps are keeping it stabilized and keeping it close to my body. And it's, even for that heavy of a pack, it's incredibly comfortable. This year, at the beginning of this year, I replaced that pack, or added another pack for various things. I'll still use the Arc'teryx for short trips with my kids, and maybe a winter load. But now I have a ULA Ohm 2.0. ULA is ultralight adventure equipment. They're one of the cottage vendors in the backpacking community, and they are based out in Utah. And the pack that I got, so the Bora 80 is 80 for 80 liters. The ULA Ohm is a 63 liter pack. So it's not that much smaller, but it is way lighter. It is just over 2 pounds. It's like 2 pounds, 2.5 ounces. So it's a significant weight loss from the Bora to the Ohm. And it's definitely noticeable. One of the big differences between the ULA, the Ohm, and the Bora is that the Ohm is a single chamber pack. You open it up and you put everything all in the same thing. You can basically accomplish the same sort of packing by having soft, lightweight things away from the back and have the heavier things near the back. And it's no harder to pack, but it is a much, much lighter pack. And that's how I got my base weight under 20 pounds, is by switching to I slowly switched to various lightweight equipment, and the pack was the last thing, and that got me under 20 pounds in weight.
You find you typically have a fairly packed full pack by the time you're all said and done, or do you find that you have relatively loosely packed but full pack?
It's funny you ask that. Like, I have packed the same things, like basically the same gear, and not changed anything but the pack itself, and they both fit in there. When you look at my pack load in the Bora 80, it looks full, and I'm not exactly sure why, but it looks full, and there's compression straps on either side of the pack so that you can sort of, like, once you have everything packed in, you can tighten things down so that it's getting it as compact as possible. The Ohm also has, it's not compression straps, but it does have a system where you can, once you have everything in, you can pull things tighter so that you can get it as slim as possible. But either way, they look kind of the same. I guess the reason why, one of the reasons why the Bora looks so full is that it's the opening at the top for the main chamber is has a drawstring closure. So you tighten that up, and then you put the brain on top of it and fasten that down, and so it has this particular look. The Ohm, you can get the Ohm with the drawstring top like that, but I opted to do a little upgrade and get a roll top. So it's got a piece of material in the top of the fabric that you can roll down and then clip on either side with the plastic clasp that you're used to seeing for, like, the sternum strap and the hip belt. And so I think because no matter what load I have in there, as long as the top of the contents of the pack is above the back padding, it's always going to look full because it's cinched, it's rolled down to fit what's in there.
What was the main reason for choosing the roll top over the drawstring?
I feel like the roll top is more secure. Like all the dry bags that I have and use for paddling are all roll tops. The nature of how you keep water out of a bag like that is you take a bunch of material. You have an opening, you put stuff in it, you roll it. You basically fold it over and over and over again. Like, I think most of the dry bags and dry sacks are like minimum of 3 rolls, and you get water. You make the bag waterproof, and I just like that dynamic, and I didn't like the idea of like just cinching it up and having string dangling. I felt like the roll top is versus the cinch top is a nicer aesthetic, and I like the I'm used to the roll top from dry bags and such.
Makes sense. At this point, and we can make a whole show about bags in general and not have it focused on camping.
Yeah.
But at this point, all of my bag purchases have been geared toward either camera carry or everyday carry, comfort in different scenarios, but I would not use them for camping. Even though I have a set of bags I would use for travel, none of them would fit the bill for actually carrying gear in anywhere. And maybe, I don't know, one of them I might be able to make work if I were talking about in a pinch. But at this point, that's something I definitely don't have, but I also don't have the use case for it at the moment either. So that's one of the few things that I've elected not to purchase in advance, because I've seen how iterations have evolved and how much better a pack could be over time. You know, if you wait and kind of get the maybe not the best of the best at the time that you purchase it, but as you once you get to the point of needing it, if you wait to get closer to that to get a bag, then you will reap the benefits immensely.
Yes. I was gonna say, when you mentioned that, I was thinking about the Peak Design everyday bag. I've had my eye on that for a while. That's such a cool bag.
It's great. I have which one? Because they have multiple. I have two of the Messenger, one of the backpack. Emily has the Sling.
The backpack.
Yeah.
I was gonna say, like, the links that I put in our show notes, they actually, for the stuff that I have that's been discontinued, I went and looked for like the actual discontinued version. I know that like, for example, the Arc'teryx Bora 80 was discontinued, and they still make the Bora with in a smaller pack. It's a 63-liter pack, which is consequently the same size as same capacity as the Ohm that I have. But it's I looked for the ones that I have because the materials have changed over the years. Like, I know I remember saying that, like, I used like the material in the Bora is like a much thicker, heavier material. Just like quickly looking at the material specs, it's like there is 210 denier, 420 denier, 630 denier fabrics in that pack, and the UALA packs use something called aerobic, which I don't know what the denier of that is, but it is a much lighter fabric, and it's what makes the biggest differences. It's like they've slimmed down as much material, they've removed as much material as you possibly can in the pack, and then used just a really lightweight fabric.
It makes sense, and it also makes sense that they would remove the ability to compartmentalize when you're talking about wanting to do it from a weight saving measure, not necessarily a cost saving measure.
Yeah, and just to follow up, that aerobic fabric is actually a 400 denier fabric. That's where the aerobic 400 comes from. So it's still using a thick fabric. It's just the actual threads used to weave the fabric are much lighter than the stuff that Arc'teryx was using a decade and a half ago.
So I think we have two topic follow-ups that we need to move to the next show, one being knives and one being bags, just because we've now teased those, and they were in the original list anyway.
Yes.
For today's show, we had a topic listed as locations, but nothing was underneath it. Do we want to, in the interest of time, make that a follow-up for the next show as well?
I'd say next show will be part 3, where we do bags. We could do knives, locations, and then transition to everyday kind of bags, because like locations, it's a good segue to just travel in general.
Yeah, it sounds good to me. I will certainly have more to contribute from the knives and bags perspective than a lot of the gear today, just because I haven't had these use cases recent enough to be able to have any real experience with them.
Yeah. Well, all right.
I'd say that's a wrap for the show, and we can slip into after show. As always, you can reach us on Twitter at untitled_hosts with an S. We also have an Instagram account with the same name at untitled_hosts. You can send us an email at untitled.hosts@gmail.com. And you can visit the feed directly at theuntitledpodcast.com. Have a good night.
Yeah. So I got an email. So I get emails because you've added my account to the YouTube TV account as a sub member or a member of your YouTube TV account. I got the email saying that the tennis channel is no longer a part of YouTube TV, and I'm just like, that was it, man. I gotta cancel YouTube TV.
That was the last straw.
That was the last straw. I was like,
yeah.
I didn't even know the tennis channel was a part of YouTube TV, but now I'm upset.
I thought it was funny. I got the email and it's like, okay, I didn't know that this existed.
Right.
Okay. And then I go and launch the app, and it's a big splash screen over top of everything until you hit OK, saying, "You're sorry, the tennis channel is no longer available."
Damn, didn't even know I had it.
Yeah. I have yet, though, to successfully watch a Liverpool match other than that first one on YouTube TV.
Oh my God. They're just not playing it?
The past couple have been Peacock Premium.
Bastards.
And I mean, that's definitely not,
bastard feeling.
YouTube's fault from that perspective. But I've refused to resubscribe to Peacock Premium. I'm not chasing them around everywhere. I'll just watch the highlights.
Yeah, I was just gonna say I wish that last Arsenal game was on Peacock Premium. I
haven't paid attention because I've been relatively irate with our string of matches. Other than our Champions League match went our way, so I'm happy with that one. But the past couple of Premier League matches, we've had just stupid VAR decisions go against us.
Oh, that's not it. I don't know if that's worse or not, but like Arsenal has been just like, we just let them score more goals.
I think I'd rather have that.
Because then you have you only have you to blame.
Yeah, I mean
rather than the system.
We've had 3 goals disallowed for offside. One.
Oh shit!
One was actually legitimate. I'm not arguing that one.
They're never legitimate.
I mean,
I'm kidding.
Yeah,
I'm kidding.
But the other 2, I mean, you're talking a millimeter, like trying to draw the line in a way where like the crest on the uniform is offside. And I mean, that's literally we've been the victim of armpit being considered offside. We've had the crest on, and I'm not making it up, but the crest on the uniform is the line they drew to make it offside.
Oh my gosh!
Had a penalty awarded to Brighton for what was a foul, I guess. Robertson kicked the ball, caught just a little bit of the shoe. The Brighton player was doing the same thing. Like both of them were going for it. Basically, their feet tapped each other, and very minimal. Like both players kept running. It was not a big deal, and they were awarded a penalty for it on a VAR review.
Wow. Last Sunday, we just let the Wolves score too many goals. They just let them score goals. We drew against Leeds United. We got spanked by Aston Villa. It was our last win was against Man United. They and that was on a penalty. It was a 1-0 win, and it was because we got a penalty. We earned, or they penalized us, and we converted to a goal. So yeah, it's not. And during the Sunday's match against Wolverhampton, one of the commentators, just casually threw out that a year ago, Unai Emery had more wins at this point in the campaign.
Yeah, this is such a weird season though, because like a year ago we were still undefeated.
Yeah,
I mean, everybody has kind of been tossed up and down, and we've got like 11 players injured, 10.
It's 2020, man. It's like I mean, everything that's shit and weird is like, that's the year 2020 is.
Yeah, I mean, I remember the commentary was basically, we have a starting 11 full of players that are injured and unavailable, and we're still fielding a pretty strong team.
Yeah, that, Liverpool's a solid team.
And just to add in, because of the Wolverhampton link, Diogo Jota has now scored a goal in each of his first 8 Premier League appearances, which is well beyond the club record he set, and then exceeded the club record.
That's good. Glad for him.
Yeah.
I mean, and Liverpool's only not number 1 because of goal differentials, so there's that as well. So
yeah, it's just been such a strange campaign already. And of course, we were spanked by Aston Villa. I think they're just a really competitive side. I think the way they play, if they manage to get the break on you and you just don't have that preparation defensively, it's just going to be a high score line.
It's so weird because if you look at the stats, they have 5 wins and 4 losses.
And I haven't looked at the rest of the table recently, other than just trying to catch how close we are with as far as the goal differential with Tottenham. Where are they sitting?
They're 10, bottom at the top.
I knew they were at least in the middle of the pack somewhere.
Yeah, we're down at 14.
Oh wow, I didn't realize that.
Yeah, because we got 0 points. We got 0 points last match. Above us is Newcastle, Leeds United, Man City, Aston Villa, Man United, Everton, Wolves, Southampton, West Ham, Leicester, Chelsea, Liverpool, Tottenham. So we're only doing better than Crystal Palace, Brighton, Fulham, West Brom, Burnley, and Sheffield United, who have lost 9 games and drew 1.
Yeah, I guess as the campaign goes along, the top of the table is starting to look more familiar, but it's still very different than what I've been accustomed to seeing.
Yeah. Sheffield United has 1 point. Their goal differential is -12.
Ouch.
Yeah. Burnley has 5 points, but their goal diff is -13. So, we're a third of the way in. There are a lot more games left. So.
Oh, and I have no doubt there's going to be a lot of surprises, and we're going to have easily another 30 or so goals disallowed by VAR by the end of the campaign. I'm being pessimistic, but we have certainly had the most decisions go against us so far this campaign, so it's going to be interesting to see if that trend holds.
Are Liverpool still reigning Champions League champions?
No, technically Bayern won it last year for the last campaign that played out in August, I think it was.
Oh, did they play it? I did not realize they played the rest of the matches.
Yeah, they dropped the double leg, semifinal round. So it was just single leg final, semifinal, or single leg semifinals that fed the final.
Who did Liverpool lose to?
I don't remember. Well, I mean, we were knocked out
in the quarterfinals
just before then. Yeah. And I don't remember who we played at this point.
I don't remember a lot about August.
Though we have already qualified for the round of 16 for this go with a game in hand. So.
Oh, cool. Yeah, we are having no trouble in the Europa League. It is. I wish we were doing as well in the Premier League. I think last few matches have been 3-0, 4-0.
So what's this about a TikTok video?
Yeah, I made a TikTok video. I'd been, I jumped on TikTok back in the summer. I can't remember why. I don't know what got me there. I don't know, I can't remember if we did this together, but Ellery has been using TikTok. I don't know if we did it independently at the same time, and we've been sharing TikTok videos for months. And it's fun, spend 10-15 minutes scrolling through these little short videos because some of them are quite hilarious. And then Becca was getting on a TikTok video. We should probably have her on our locations recording because she's a travel agent. She's a travel agent in the middle of a pandemic, so she's had some pretty cool outlooks on starting that business right before pandemic started. Anyway, she's like, I want to make a TikTok video. Ask me, she knows that I look at TikTok, and she's like, she wants help me, tell me what I should do. And I was like, you're going to be able to figure this out, but it's like, hey, let's do this, do that. And I made some suggestions, and she's made some really cool TikTok videos. And it's like, I'd been thinking about making a TikTok video for months, and I was just like, I had this idea in my mind. I was like, well, let me do it. And it's like there's nothing stopping me. So I thought I'd have a little bit of fun with the history of the poop emoji. And so what I did was I verified my facts, and because I knew that the poop emoji was not intended to be a poop emoji. The poop emoji is actually intended to be a swirl of chocolate soft serve ice cream. But some folks over at BuzzFeed and Huffington Post and Dazed Magazine was like, that's poop, and has been used as poop ever since. And so what I did was I wrote a little script and got my iPhone out and used the face recognition camera features to record a video as the poop emoji, talking about how I'm not supposed to be the poop emoji. I'm actually soft serve.
Did you add anything else to it, or is that pretty
No,
much
it's just me talking as the poop emoji about, it's like just like a little 20-second video of me saying that. And I thought it was fun. And like, I have some ideas for some other videos, like using the, that emoji feature. And, it was fun to make.
Yeah, I could see it being fun. I don't remember what drove me to download the app and look at something there. I know it had to be something that I came across shared elsewhere, but I have not spent any time really in the app other than occasionally I'll have a link that'll open it up and play, and then I'll go about my day. Are there any restrictions or limitations on length, or is it just that it's typically short?
I think you can do 30-second and 60-second videos. I don't think I've seen anything longer than that. And when I look at the interface, it looks like 30 and 60 are actual options in there. The thing that's really cool about TikTok is that you can put music to your video that is copyrighted music, and you don't have to worry about royalties. And I'm not really sure what the deal is with that. Like, I don't know how TikTok has gotten around that, but it's a feature of the app. It's like, here's a list of things that you can do. And I know you can do that in Instagram as well. It's a lot less discoverable, but it's definitely a feature of the app to have certain kind of music put in there. But a lot of why I decided to do it is because, like, I thought I'd been thinking about this for a long time, and when, like, I knew about the thing about the poop emoji, and so that'd been in my head for years. And then when you could, talk as an emoji, like when Apple made it so that you could make a video as an emoji, I thought that was super cool. And then I got in my head, that would be funny if the poop emoji was actually explaining to you that it's actually ice cream, and that it's he's misunderstood in his time. And then it was just like, here's a cool idea. And then I come across TikTok, and it's the right platform for this. YouTube is not the right platform for this, for sure. I mean, you could post it to Facebook, but that's not what Facebook is so many other things, and Instagram is so many other things, and Twitter is so many other things. Not that I use Twitter. And it's just like, TikTok was the perfect platform for this. And so it was like, hey, instead of like just thinking about it, I watched my girlfriend make videos and post videos because she wanted to post things about travel on TikTok. And I was like, I have ideas too, and I should not be sitting on my ideas. And she inspired me to make a stupid video about the poop emoji.
Interesting. I don't know that I'll make anything anytime soon, but it's been something that I have thought of that I don't know how much of it is just extraneous time thinking or the results of 2020 in general. But we kind of talked about it with the iPhone 12 and the Apple events and all. I've been curious about creating video content again. Just I have a number of different things that I want to do, not necessarily long form, but not so short form either. Think more in the 3 to 5 minute, kind of target range. And so music videos, of course, come to mind. And I'm actually talking to my brother a little bit about maybe we try to collaborate on one together, since he's more of a musician than I am, for sure. And but I've also been debating just what else can I come up with that might be fun to do. And so I do think part of the allure or the appeal for something like TikTok is also that same kind of thing, where sometimes video is just fun.
Video is a lot of fun. Like Instagram is like the perfect, it's the platform for pictures, and it's the perfect platform for looking at advertisements if you want super well targeted advertisements for, men. I feel like Becca was telling me that she gets better targeting on Facebook than she does Instagram. So maybe it's just it's we've talked about this, but really good targeting of ads in Instagram, but also it's also a place where you can look at pictures too. But TikTok is kind of the video version of Instagram, because Instagram is, you can do videos there, but somehow that's not what you go there for. And so it's worked out. I sent you a link to the video that I made.
I saw it come through. I will follow you once I log back into my account on the new device.
But that was all I had for today.
Yeah, I don't have anything else myself.
Well, all right.
We hit about the same length as last week, so I think the third part maybe should hit about the same to be a nice full-featured, rounded out 3-part series, and go from there.
So is this a wrap, or is it in the can, or is it a full lid?
I don't know what the expressions typically relate to, other than in the can means that it is actually produced and ready to be. The reel
played. Is in a real. It's in a real can,
right?
And a wrap is like we're done recording, but maybe we'll have to do pickups later because we adjusted the script, or it turns out that we didn't like any of those takes.
Well, normally when you have a wrap on shooting, it's done and going to post production.
Yeah.
One that I'm not sure on is the lid.
That where that one's from, right?
No.
That was the thing that C.J. Craig said at the end of her press conferences.
Ah, yes. I don't know why I didn't think about it.
It's several times. I didn't pick up on that until very recently. I was actually I wasn't sure if it was something just specific to maybe press conferences, but it seemed like, according to Urban Dictionary, it's definitely popularized by the character. But it's just that's the end of it. It's just how you say it. It's like, we're done.
Interesting. I'll maybe
it's not specific. Yeah, it's not specific to press conferences.
Yeah, I wonder if it didn't originate more specifically from a journalistic origin, so to speak. Not necessarily press conferences, but journalism in general. If there was something where you would put a lid on it during the printing process or something like that. Yeah.
There's got to be more. There's got to be more to it than just that it came from the West Wing. There's.
Yeah, I mean, they would have had to pick it up somewhere as well. I don't think it doesn't strike me as a phrase that would have its origin there.
Yeah, maybe that's some follow up.
We're gonna get to a point where we have like a 3-part follow up episode. You know that, right?
I'm at this point. I'm thinking like it's gonna be a 1-part follow up, and then I have like a cool idea for follow up.
All right. Well, we'll touch on that when the time comes.
Yeah, that's my teaser.
All right. Well, I think that we can call it a wrap then.
And a full lid. There are no cans because it's all digital.
Yeah. Maybe I'll create a image of a can and make that the cover art for the last little minute.
Can we use like a food can?
We can use whatever kind of can we want.
Because it's our podcast.
Exactly.
All right.
All right. Have a good one.
All right. Bye.
Bye.